Hey folks, in today's video I want to talk to you about how you can adapt your Nikon autofocus lenses to work on Sony alpha bodies and get transfer of shooting information and VR and get autofocus on them using the new ComLite adapters. Now please stick around and hear me out on this whole video. What I've got here is a prototype and you need to hear it in context, so please stick around and watch the entire video. If you want to learn about what's happening inside your camera and how to make use of all of its features, and start to use, understand, and work with light to create really interesting and dynamic shots, check out my Take Control of the Light video series that I filmed with Tina. It's filled with lots of interactive exercises that you do and videos showing Tina going through the exercises as well to help you learn. So if you've ever felt that your 70-200 f4 Sony isn't disproportionate enough and unbalanced on your Sony camera, then you may want to get your Nikon 2.8 to put on there and really throw things out of proportion. Jokes aside, a lot of people do see value in being able to adapt their lenses to mirrorless. Say you want to have a walk around kit with a small lens, but then still have the option to use your 1.4s and 2.8s from Nikon that you've bought rather than replacing them all. And it's true that whilst Sony are now getting some really high quality lenses like the 35 and 55 and then the 25 and 85 from Zeiss, the Bardis lenses, they're fantastic quality, but they are quite pricey. So if you've got existing glass, you may want to use it. So I got a hold of this adapter. The ComLite ones are smart adapters like the Metabones ones that will allow you to transfer shooting information as well as autofocus and also VR. So really, could open things up wide open in terms of what you can do with your mirrorless cameras instead of just using older manual lenses to be able to take advantage of all of those features. Now, I have to be upfront about this. ComLite sent these to me. I don't have a long-term relationship with them. I just heard they were developing this, got in touch. The Nikon one is pre-production. This is not how it will ship to the public. Have to say that 10 times. It's not final. This exact version I have has the words test printed on it, and this version will never be sold. They've made it very clear that the engineers are still working on it, but it got to a point where they were happy to send it out to me to have a play with, and I'll be sending them feedback on my thoughts. So the main thing is they haven't finally cracked the phase detection, so it's only working efficiently with the contrast detection. So that's just how it is, whereas they also sent me the Canon one, which is final and is working fully, and I've borrowed Tina's 50mm lens so I can test that one out as well. First of all, let's take a look around them. I'm going to be focusing primarily on the Nikon one here because there is already content out there on the Canon one. Okay, so taking a look top down, this is the Nikon one and it's pretty straightforward. You can see it's got a finish on it that's quite similar to the body finish that the new Sonys have with that kind of pixely, dotty texture on it. It's all metal, it's matte inside, so that should cut down reflections. You can see we've got the transfer points for the terminal, so you can get all of that through. It's got the foot on it, so you can actually mount, if you're using a big lens, you can mount this onto a tripod. So not too much to it. Comparing it to the Canon, slightly different, but it just comes down to the different lenses. The only main difference between the two is that the Canon, this bottom foot, can be removed, whereas the prototype Nikon I have here, that's fixed. I don't know if that will be updated. Okay, so nicely built, and comparing it to the Metabones, I think it's just as well built. Taking another look here, this is actually a Metabones to Micro Four Thirds, a Nikon to Micro Four Thirds, so it's got the glass elements in there, but looking at the build quality itself, the only thing on the ComLite that looks a little bit iffy is the little plastic slider to dismount your lens. So look, I haven't built my channel by slamming anyone, but trashing products unnecessarily, attacking anyone like that. I try to be fair and even-handed, and for example, if I don't like the Olympus pen and I wouldn't shoot with it, then I would say it's not for me, but if you like to shoot this, that, and the other, then the features will suit you. I try to be honest about my opinions, but not just slam things. But I have to say, for me, this Nikon adapter, in terms of autofocus, is completely unusable right now. In my opinion, the Canon one is barely usable too. Shooting with both of them on the A7 Mark II and the A7R Mark II, I got focus with the A7 II more easily with the Canon. It was slow, and for anything fast moving, I just wouldn't consider using it. I would manual focus over using the autofocus. And on the A7R, I could barely get any to focus. With the Nikon one, I didn't get a single shot focused on either camera in focus. It only grabbed focus once, and then it was out of focus when it finally took the shot. And the biggest issue for me is the way it hunts. It sounds like it's really clunky and rough on your lens. I'll grab some close-ups on it now so you can see it and hear it, but I don't want to put my lens through that for too long. Okay, here we are with the comm light on the 70-200 attached to the A7 Mark II. And let's just have a listen. So we'll put a focus point over there on the curtains. No focus. Now let's have a look on the A7R Mark II. No good. Let's try a couple of other lenses. Okay, so A7R Mark II with the 50mm, turning it on, you'll note even that it takes a while to boot up and be ready. Okay, so here you'll note it doesn't know what lens is actually attached. It's saying F, I don't know what. It's saying, yeah, it doesn't know what the focal length is, and it won't let me adjust the aperture. So for this one on the 50mm, it's just really not working at all. So if we even try to focus, it just doesn't even respond. And this is turning it on and off and trying different focus modes and everything. It just doesn't know it's there. Compare that to the Canon 50mm on the Canon adapter. Okay, let's go in on this one and switch it on. So it instantly at least recognizes there's a lens there, and switching my aperture dial, yes, it does let me adjust it, no problem. And then trying to get focus over there. Okay, we got one. That's with the A7 II, but with the A7R II, I really didn't have any luck. So look, please don't take this as a, Comlight aren't making good products video. I haven't tested a lot of their stuff, and I've heard from a lot of you guys that have used their previous generation of adapters and love them. This is pre-production, so I will be asking them if they're still gonna speak to me to get a final one to test it out when it's available. For now though, I would say that it's really well built, and for the price, it's comparable in terms just to be able to get the VR transfer and the shooting information, which does seem to be working. To be honest, there was a few times that it lost contact with the lens and wasn't able to adjust the aperture and stuff. And then also my 50mm 1.4 Nikon, it just wouldn't recognize it most of the time, which is a bit of a worry. But looking at the Canon one, which did work, it always had the aperture always worked. It seemed quite smooth. The transfer of shooting information was always there. Assuming they can get the Nikon to the same point as the Canon one, then I think this could be really interesting. That said, I would only use it in studio, and to be honest, with the focus peaking and stuff for what I shoot, I would rather just go into 100% and make sure I've nailed focus myself. Yeah, in fast moving situations, I wouldn't rely on either of them, and I haven't tested any autofocus adapter that I would trust. And then if I was going to be manually focusing it or shooting slow moving subjects, I would just use the peaking and do it by myself anyway. Now here's where I think this does make sense. Using an old manual lens like the 51-2. Zooming it manually, I can see what's in focus and what isn't, and I get the peaking, which really helps. And it gets the stabilization from the body as well. But still, this doesn't seem to be transferring shooting information, but it is responsive in terms of knowing what aperture I'm doing. It does adjust the shutter speed. But having said that's a useful use for it, that's just using it as a standard, well-built adapter. So you're really not getting the whole benefit that this is planning to bring to you once it's fixed up. And there's Loki eating my studio backdrop. Loki? So I hope you have watched through to now and are still with me and heard all of this in context. For me, well, I would say just as a general statement, the Nikon one isn't there yet, but reminder, this isn't what's going to finally ship. So, you know, I'll post a link once I do get the final one to this and I'm able to test it. I'll post a link in the caption below so you can click through to that in case you're watching this down the road. The Canon one is out there and it's doing fine for people. I've heard reports some people are fine for the kind of thing they're shooting. As I said, for a well-built adapter that transfers the information that you're then going to manual focus anyway, these are probably quite good value, but in terms of autofocus for what I shoot, not really. So I hope you found that helpful. And can I just say, you look like someone who really appreciates good food. So stick around and hear about my new YouTube channel all about the world's best seafood. Thanks guys, I'll see you soon.
Hey folks, you may have noticed as I travel the world shooting and teaching that I love to try out local foods. Actually, I'm a lifelong seafood fanatic and I've just started a second YouTube channel dedicated to it. Join me as I eat my way around the globe, trying everything along the way. From fine dining to street food, from local favorites to gigantic platters, fish markets to five-star hotels. I try the classic staples and the exotic delicacies.
Is it a joke or?
All in search of the world's best seafood. Subscribe for a seat at the table.
And there's Loki eating my studio backdrop. I gave you food, why are you eating that? Come on. Cheeky little shit.